And meeting that. Those are my notes before I was going over it. I have too many versions. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
All the tasks, we've got 3 months worth.
Yeah.
Those things I sent.
What's this one though?
I don't know.
That's on our pack, just right here.
Oh,
Is this the new revised, the sections that
that
we've
we've
already
already
done?
No,
we haven't
because
done all
we
these.
revised that one particular.
just the ones that, yeah, revised and what we need to do. What's next?
From last meeting. So you get to be the chair?
Discuss.
You know who our new neighbors are yet?
She moves the 14th.
She hasn't met them yet, I don't think.
Now she doesn't even know anything about it.
Yeah.
So tell your husband, I have a tractor now. Get stuck.
No kidding.
I bought a tractor 2 weeks ago.
I get stuck a lot too. Turns out.
I hear the
We
dump
did get
trucks
some
down there.
fill to put along the side.
I heard the dump trucks.
Yeah,
The dogs went back.
yeah,
fast
Moran
when
came down and gave us 3 loads.
When the tailgate was hitting, the dogs
Yeah.
were like, it didn't hurt. Chill out.
Well, that's the first time somebody's been able to bring us some, thank God. We need
Yeah.
about 3 more.
I had 312 yards put in there and I got more. So
Right, you got the dirt. We were after that dirt. You had first
I worked
dibs.
on that for 2 months.
Is it mud?
No.
Ours is
bone.
clay.
That stuff I got was full of rock. I mean,
See, we would have taken that because
That's
we
why I'm
parked
holding
cars on it.
oh no,
Oh,
that's why I'm building that stone wall
oh,
because I got
yeah, I
Under
just
rock.
finished the walls when we cleared the back. Because Greg hurt his shoulder. I'm like, wait, this sucks because now I'm the one. that
yes it
This
does.
is not cool. Put the wall up.
So I'll have to see you.
Okay.
If we don't have enough.
Well, we can spark.
I gotta wait till she's here to record.
Oh. While they're waiting, John, where are we with the survey for the plan for Ledger?
I think I was waiting for you, your go ahead to roll it out.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't get
Oh,
any
no,
more
not
comments
yet.
other than what I put in.
Promise that she can hear it.
So if you're, I mean, if you're okay with it, we'll convert it to a Survey Monkey and send you the link.
Okay, yeah.
So it's just
Do
recording.
that tomorrow.
We only got 7 businesses
Great.
that responded
Why,
to the
what'd you
business
do?
survey, so I'm not
Nothing
overly
bad,
hopeful
but
I know.
you
about
calls.
get fired tomorrow.
Yeah.
50 or 100 that did the residents.
So with that shared document, if you guys make any changes to it and send me what page the changes are to it, I'll print it out so that y'all have a copy of it to discuss so that we don't have to do this next time.
I'm gonna call the order. The planning and zoning meeting for Voluntown, June 8th, 2022 at 7:08 PM. We have gonna have to seat Juliet. We have 4 members present. We need to look at the approval of the minutes from March, April, and May.
All right, I did edit them as best I could, based on what we had talked about that time, to add a little bit more to the beginning and change the order of them. So in other words, there should always be call to order members and alternates before anything, then your public hearings and whatnot, but. And Sue added content, on the public hearing stuff. Collaborative effort.
So
Which one
we're
are we
gonna
doing?
you two is to approve March, we'll have to make an order, our motion to approve it.
I motion to approve the March.
Second.
Who's
All
second,
in
Joe?
favor?
Yep.
Aye. Opposed? March is off. Look at April. Juliet was there for that one. So anybody can make the motion to say
Everybody good?
Yeah.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the minutes for April 13th.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
The only, this was a weird one, but I think you just let it go, but there's one of these where somebody showed up after an alternate was seated.
I did make note of that in there. John and I talked about how to put it in the minutes.
Okay,
Yeah, if you look down,
is that this one? I know, I wonder if it was this one, it might have been that other one.
nope, it was the other one. It was the other one.
Okay.
That was March, actually.
No, because it says Brian alive.
Yeah,
Well, March said Brian was seated until Davidson joined via Zoom, but once one is seated, they're
It
seated.
shouldn't have mattered, yeah.
But the problem is later on, Scott made a motion.
well, we had said that he was seated until Scott arrived. So that kind of, well, we did.
Yeah, I know.
So
I was just saying,
we can-
just let it go for this one, but I didn't know it. So I was gonna change who made the motion, but I didn't. I just left it. Never mind. I make a motion to approve me.
I second.
All in favor? Opposed? Passed. Stuart, John, do we have any additions to the agenda?
No.
Nothing for me.
Citizens' comments? None. I want all these ones. Zoning regulations, update discussion, old business. Are we deferring to you on that one, John?
It's up to you. It's up to you, Mr. Chairman. It's so where we are, and there was some disagreement. I believe that Scott and maybe one or two others preferred to keep the schedule of regulation workshops and reserve discussion of regulations to that time. I suggested, given the fact that things are a little quiet in terms of applications and business before the Planning and Zoning Commission, we could take advantage of that sort of quiet time to work through some of the regulations and perhaps avoid having to have 2 meetings a month. So what I have done is I created a Google document and sent all the Planning and Zoning Commissioners a link, which enables everyone to add comments or edit the document. To this point, we have sort of worked through the first 5 sections, and in advance of this meeting, I threw in a markup of sections 5A and 6, which is the village district overlay and the rural residential development or the rural residential district, and have not received any. I didn't see any additional markup in the Google Drive. I'm not sure if anyone actually looked through.
I could not, for some reason, edit anything. They kept telling me to sign in I tried to sign in and it wouldn't let me do anything. So that's probably my own fault, but I did read it.
Okay, okay. Well, so like maybe question number one is that the most appropriate way to, solicit comments on it? Or should we be working on paper or some other version? Like a word version with track changes.
Well, I wouldn't vote that because I still feel like there needs to be a major structural change in these. Like from words to tables to that kind of thing, which doesn't translate well at all in track changes. I mean,
No, you're right.
But we still have.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you can't,
Word
document.
how do you do it easily? Other than discuss it at a meeting, and if we all say, okay, that's a good idea, then just make that change.
In my personal opinion, if you can't make the meeting, then the way that workshop thing is worked out. A lot of people, I missed one, but a lot of people were missing 2 or 3 in a row. I didn't even see certain people.
Hey, I was
You were
here
always
one
here.
night.
You were
I was
always
the
here.
only one here.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's the sharing of a document might be at least the best way to get it started. She makes comments on it. He's looking at it. At least it starts it. The two nights a month. That's just for this.
I mean, I kind of like to.
I got 2 or
You
3
can
other
read it
months
at your own
nights.
You know,
Yeah,
like when, at your own pace, you can kind of go through it section by section.
By the way, I have a new email address. Sue's got it.
Okay, so did you get a link on your old email to this document?
No.
Okay, so we can forward that to your new email.
Okay.
I just wonder, like, what is our process? Are we just, because I wasn't here when you were given the task, so I have no idea. Were you tasked with just taking what's here and cleaning it up, or are we entertaining any bigger scale changes based on the work the subcommittee did on the POCD and stuff?
Yeah, no, I'm not. At this point, I'm not incorporating any major changes other than things that were sort of discussed and have already been, some of the ones that are already incorporated, like the accessory apartment regulation. But primarily it's a cleanup. The town did have, in association with codifying some of the ordinances in a digital format, a legal team went through and made structural changes for any legal discontinuities in there, as well as incorporating any new state statute like parking restrictions and things like that. But there weren't any fundamental philosophical changes at this point, unless they're brought up by the commission as we go chapter by chapter. It's primarily an update and cleanup.
But you did incorporate the tables, which makes me happy anyway, but.
Right. So yeah, just as a simpler format, converted a lot of the words, the long lists, into a tabular format. So far.
I mean, the only thing that we did in the subcommittee, just because once you do your POCD, then you update your regs, because the regs have to implement your POCD goals.
Right.
So because the POCD the goals weren't really articulated clearly as goals, that's what we cleaned up. It created all those goals. I haven't had a chance to now go take that and go back and look at this, but I mean, that was the idea. If we agreed on the cleaned up goals, that those were our goals, did any, and not all the goals translated to a reg change either, was the other issue. I mean, some of them have nothing to do with zoning. So I was just pulling out which ones did. Like, so if we said something like we wanted to encourage small scale business, like home businesses, then we would have to go through and make sure that we allow home businesses in zones that make sense. Like that zone that, I can't remember if it's the village overlay or whatnot, but it's a zone that's fully built out with single family houses, but it's a commercial zone. So of course that's a logical zone for a home business because it's a good transition between single family use and commercial, should it ever want to convert in the future.
You guys have the POCD stuff in that binder, right?
I know I have mine, but yeah.
I think yeah.
The new stuff, the plan of conservation development. The guidance, the plan. the
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make, because if it wasn't, I'd get you guys copies of it all in there.
So that was the 10-year plan, and then we did, we cleaned, a group of us cleaned it up. Well, then a group of us talked about it and cleaned up the goals, made them sound like a goal. They were just, the sentences were written without like a verb, so I didn't know what about, it just said municipal facilities. Okay, are they good? Are they bad? I don't know. So we tried to go through and I was talking to them since I didn't have the history. What did you mean by that? And we tried to get those cleaned up, and I did a presentation to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I think one member showed up there, but I did submit it. It wasn't just me. I mean, a member of your commission was on that committee, and then 2 people from EDC and one other.
She made a great presentation on it when it was done.
No, well, there were.
Oh, yeah, they were here.
It's all right, whatever, but I still have it, and I did share that with John. But we went through like that survey that was done, so I could have a background, and then I got the sector tapestry report.
Did a report ever go out about that survey?
What survey?
The one that was the most recent one I saw, I think it was a couple months ago. They said on the letter they were gonna be sending out to residents.
Oh, they'd have to take that up probably with the Board of Selectmen. I don't know.
They don't release that stuff?
They probably do. It's probably on the town website somewhere.
Matt, the guy from EDC, young kid, Matt.
Yeah.
He did a nice job. But that's where I left off. So it looked like that, where we just went through the like land use, issues and concerns, goals and objectives. And then if it made sense that there was a regulation, we're gonna put it in.
So we're accepting the change is made to 5A, right? Correct? Is that what?
Well, we just started talking about it, see who got it, and looked at it.
Right. So yeah, so 5A and 6 were the most recent markups that I did.
So I would guess I would want to ask, why so many special permits?
Yeah, I think that's I think that's a worthwhile question.
If the goal is to reduce barriers to investment, if you, in your commercial zones, if you want, like, do we want commercial activity in our commercial? Which I assume the answer is yes, right? I don't know, otherwise rezone them residential, but if you do, then asking for a special permit kills that pretty effectively.
They have to have the opportunity to have a special permit if it's something that's not already covered.
No, you can't do that. That's illegal. So,
Well, that's why they're offered a special permit, special exemption for restaurants and everybody else.
right, but it could just be site plan approval. It doesn't have to be a public hearing. So if you have a commercial zone and you want restaurants, you wouldn't make them special permit, you would make them site plan. But the problem with your regs are, then you need site development standards to weigh that against, which they need anyway, right? John, back me up on this, please.
Really?
Because you can't, so even if it's a special permit, you have to give reasons why it complies or not, but you don't have any standards to weigh it against. And that's bad.
Well, wait a second.
You don't have a lot of standards to weigh it against.
Do we not have, and maybe I haven't gotten to the section where I've forgotten this. Are there not special exception standards?
Yes.
You don't have
They're in
any.
here, that's what I was.
Yeah, but you
that's
don't
what I'm
have
talking
any,
about.
you don't have any site plan standards.
Oh, right, no, well, right, right.
Wishy-washy like that. It
So
has-
we would have to, if we were going to create a site plan process, we would have to come up with the standards, certainly.
But a site plan is inherent in a special permit, so it still has to comply with site plan standards, and there aren't any. Well,
Which are just primarily like drafting and information standards, right?
like landscaping, lightings,
Right.
buffers,
Right.
parking. And you've got some of them, it's just not all of them. So you have site plan requirements, contents, you have some on, a little bit on access and traffic.
Where are you? You're on, what section are you on?
I'm just trying to find site plan standards, but there aren't any.
I just passed it.
Where is
Um,
site plan requirements?
That's requirements, not standards. So in other words, like if you have a permit that comes in and, they want to put in, I don't know, a restaurant. You look at a site plan, the developer has to know, well, how many parking spaces are required for that? Are there requirements about lighting? Are there requirements for sidewalks? Are there requirements for signage? You know, and then you go to your regs and you find those requirements. And if they comply with it, you have to say yes. If they don't, you ask them to change it, or you say no. But if you don't have anything for them to gauge, then they're just coming in and showing you something, you're like, oh, yeah, it looks great. But that's not really what it's done.
So is that something that needs to be done individually through the different districts under,
No. It's just, if an application requires a site plan, these are the basic, you know,
Right.
site development standards, like, what is your, how do you get rid of trash? Like, do you require a fence around a dumpster? Do you require, I don't know, driveway widths to be 12 feet? Do you know, there's nothing to gauge it against. So when you sit here and you say, if you were to say, I'm gonna deny your application,
yeah, on what basis?
you have to have something to deny it on. You can't just say no, because you feel like it, that's not allowed. So, I would hope that for the sake, and a developer wants that, because they want some certainty that their application will pass.
Well, a lot of it is under state regulation. But what you've got for special exceptions, you've got telecommunication and
Those are supplemental regs, so they aren't,
there's special exceptions for multifamily dwellings, automobile service, drive-in, but temporary religious
Right.
gatherings and elderly housing, that's government, that's.
so you're
That's
calling
state.
these special exceptions, but these are actually supplemental regs that have some site development standards in them. What's more typical is that you decide on a set of standards for any development, right? Basic ones. And then if you want additional things for multifamily or additional things for a telecommunication tower, whether you add them under supplemental.
Okay, you mean like 5.2, the beer and brew pub? You've got regulations, no off-site consumption,
Right, those are supplemental regs.
yeah, why mess with what we have? I understand.
You can keep supplemental regs, but I'm saying there should be general site development standards for any site plan or any special permit, the basic requirements.
Well, we're,
So that, yeah, we'll add that to section 10 when we get there. But
good.
yeah,
But
Not
they're,
there yet.
they're scattered all over the place.
right.
So I'm just saying, you should take them out of wherever they're scattered all over the place, stick them in their own chapter, and then go back through for these uses that you
Yeah, but you've jumped way ahead. We're on 5.
you can't just be on one section. I'm talking about the overall structure of the regulations, because 5 doesn't work
What-
unless you
what-
make changes.
What
to that.
John was saying is that when we get to that,
Right. No, I mean that we're doing both. You know, like for instance, what I did in 5 is certainly some of what Juliet is suggesting is there are like these weird little scraps of regulation, like beer and brew pubs or home occupations, that are sort of embedded into the list of uses in each district, and those should be extracted as we go and put into the supplementary regulations, which is what we've been doing. So we took like, again, beer and brew pubs, and I think some of the restaurant uses, out of those sections where they didn't really belong. And are putting them into section 8, which is the supplementary regulations as we go.
So John, I'm gonna just, cause I'm gonna tonight. On those, because I have to know the regulations to help Pete on that. So a lot of times when I go to the different districts, I go to that information that's in there to find what is allowable.
Right. And so in
Makes
5,
it easy for somebody like myself to be able to find the information without having to go down the rural things. Okay, now I have to look over here, and then I have to look over here where it's all kind of in one spot.
So you would look at the table of uses, what's allowed in that zone? And then usually in that table of uses, if something does have extra regs, supplemental regs, you have an asterisk or something and a reference to the section. That means that particular reg, there's things required. But there's always this general section for any development, for things that are totally standard, like landscaping, buffering, lighting, parking, all of those. They are usually alone in their own chapter.
Right, and that's what we're gonna do when we get to 8. Right?
Well, there's
John?
8 and there's like a 9.
right. And so like as we go in and we're doing that specific reference, like for instance, in section 6A, I believe,
Right.
we did that where we basically said home businesses per section 8.16 of the regulation. So we're just listing the available uses. And if then there are special requirements for one of those specific uses, we'll cross-reference it to the relevant section later in the regs.
Right. So I guess I started this by saying, like, why so many special permits? So like an antique shop, what on earth would make that need a special permit? Like, what is it that we're afraid of that it would need a special permit and not just a site plan approval? And if you want it just to be a site plan approval, there have to be criteria somewhere. There have to be site plan criteria. Not optional.
Pete would probably
mandatory.
give good input on this right now.
So I just don't know how you would gauge that. What would we look at to determine whether or not that complied with regs? There are no regs for it to comply with.
Well, I mean, it's a special permit, then that's not as much of a problem. But if you're talking 2 steps at the same time, Juliet, which is number 1, convert a bunch of the special permit uses to site plans, and then, recognizing the fact that we don't have site plan standards.
Right.
But if the commission is not interested in doing the first one, the second one is less of an issue.
And even if it's special permit though, there's still a site plan involved with the special permit. How do you get around that?
Right. Well, that's just primarily the, drafting and informational standards.
But we
Which
still-
is-
Yes.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
So we would still have to do that even if we kept everything a special permit.
Yeah. Oh, and I haven't done a deep dive into what we are requiring in this, like, special permit drafting and stuff like that at this point. Again, because I'm not at that point yet.
Okay.
But absolutely, we need those standards.
That's all I care about. But if we're on this chapter of uses, I guess my question would be, again, why on earth would an antique shop need a special permit, as an example? Special permits are reserved for uses that may be appropriate in a zone, but not on every parcel in a zone for some particular reason. Like, if you had an industrial zone that had a river that ran through it, you may not have all your industrial uses by right. You would want them by special permit to be able to safeguard the environment. So some of these are like bed and breakfast. It's a pretty benign use. Why does it need a special permit? I love amusement game arcades. That's a throwback to the 80s. Although Westerly did put one in.
So they require a special permit, but then there's special exemptions.
Yes. It's the same thing. Special permit, special exemption. the same term. My question is why
Doesn't the special permit,
special permit? and special
doesn't it
permit is
notify
the
the town that here is a bed and breakfast?
No, that could be by site plan or zoning permit or anything. But to make it a special permit means
Yeah.
added cost.
What if you're
Public hearing.
what if you're changing your home into a bed and breakfast? Wouldn't you need to let the town know
Right,
about
but
that?
you could let them know through a site plan versus a special permit.
Special permit brings money into the town, though.
So does a site plan, you can charge them too.
The site plan makes it easier to get through without having to wait like the 60 days, right, for
Yeah.
having the public
There's no
hearing and
public hearing.
everything.
Right, you could get it done in one meeting.
Right, so if you're trying to encourage growth in your town or investment in your town, you don't want everything to be a special permit because people will shy away from your town. And go to a town that doesn't have all special permit. Which is all of your neighbors. But I'm just asking why. I don't think we are understanding the difference. Why there's special permits and why site plans should be used instead.
Wasn't that discussed in a previous meeting with Scott and David and, who else was here? John, wasn't that one of the things that were discussed with you and Scott and David?
Thinking, I think that Pete might have been in on that conversation.
Yeah, that was,
Yeah, I don't recall that we had that as sort of a fundamental, like let's migrate more uses from special permit to a site plan or more as of right. Yeah, I'm happy to have that discussion. It just hadn't been, that hadn't been identified as a priority, other than perhaps Juliet in the sort of annotated POCD.
And just the way it's written here for these special exceptions, it's so user unfriendly. Like you'd have to read the entire thing to see if anything popped up for your particular use versus putting it under the use to begin with, under a supplemental reg. Because there's no labels, no idea. Because these are all supplemental regs, they're not, that's what they effectively are. So it's what I'm saying, Pat, is they can be in the section called supplemental regs. So if you have a particular use, you go to the supplemental reg that talks about just that use, right? And it lists all the special things that associated with it, like you have to have the minimum lot size of blah, 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 or whatever they are.
I would think that would be done
And then what I'm saying.
like a index or something, at the end, or once we get through all of this stuff, then we pick out what those issues that you're talking about would be, and they would all be in this one section.
That's what I'm saying. Those are they're supplemental
Right,
regs
right, but,
by use.
yeah, but we're not there yet.
I'm just trying to a general discussion about this because it would mean a significant structural change to your chapters. You can't just make little changes. It's saying, oh, wait, okay, every time we come across a supplemental reg looking thing, we're gonna stick it in this other.
Right.
chapter.
So there's the fundamental question. I think Julian is rightly taking a very big picture view of this, which is different than what I understood the commission wanted to do with these, which was sort of a cleanup and update.
Right.
And so we're doing the cleanup and update. And
Right.
Juliet is asking very valid questions about do we want to reconsider the way we're doing things? But that's a different question. And if the commission as a whole, or at least a majority of the commission would prefer to continue with the cleanup and bring that process to conclusion before reconsidering sort of fundamental ways of doing business, that's fine. But if people generally agree that with Juliet, and I think she's not wrong about these questions, do we want to reconsider the way we do business? Then yeah, we need to reconsider the manner in which we're updating this.
I would still say, is a cleanup and update, you gotta put site development standards in a spot.
Yeah, and but yeah, we'll get there in the cleanup part. If all we're doing the cleanup is we'll get there. We're not there yet.
Yes. That's all I'm trying to say.
Well, you are there. You are just at the section that has some of that written in. So I'm still looking at this list of tables that from our cleanup version in the chapter we're talking about that still has those in it. That's all I'm saying.
Oh.
So like kennels, it should just say permitted uses, it should say kennels. And then a dog in the supplemental regs, it would say all dogs shall be kept in buildings or enclosures, buildings and enclosures be located no less than 200 feet from any property line. So that would be in your table of uses. So in this cleanup and update, I would say, take that out and put it in supplemental regs.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. There's a number of those things that sort of list the use and then comma provided that it goes into the sort of supplemental things. There are several of those.
And the hotels, 2 guest rooms per acre. Has anybody done the math there? That's one small hotel.
Or one really, really big site.
But there are in the zone that they're allowed, there aren't any big sites. That's a really small hotel. You know, that's just silly.
That's a bed and breakfast.
No, hotel.
But
No,
that's
I meant.
different.
Oh, yeah, big time. That's exactly what it is. I think you probably get more rooms in the bed and breakfast.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
And I'm curious why, like, certain basic uses. I'm highly advocate for generalizing the land uses, so you're not trying to second guess exactly what uses could come to your town. So you would just have commercial, general, commercial services, industrial. You can do industrial, light, heavy, whatever. Religious, you know what I mean? Mixed use, just very general. So you're not like calling out arcade. That would be, you know, recreational. Indoor recreational versus outdoor recreational, which would cover campground. And then in your supplemental regs, under that general category, you could call out particularly the uses that you were worried about already have in here. Like antique shop is just retail.
Yeah, I mean, that's I have no problem with any of that. But that's a commission decision.
So I just didn't know how to, I was gonna try to suggest that, but I don't know how to put it in here as a cleanup. So it would, you know, it look like way too many changes when it's not, it's just generalizing. I don't know, how do you guys?
I would, I mean, you know, this is asking to create more work for you, Juliet, but I think if maybe there were, you know, you and I could work together and pose maybe 4 or 5 sort of fundamental philosophical questions that we basically put to the commission, essentially for a vote at this time, not, you know, at this time today, but while we're doing this process, that, you know, should we reorganize and reorient the table of uses and the way we describe uses to be more general, as you say, retail, service, office, medical, whatever, rather than antique shops, arcades, blah, 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 blah. Like that's a yes or no question. Should we generalize or not? Another yes or no question is, should we establish a site plan process, you know, to migrate some of these special permit uses into more of a streamlined site plan process? That's another fundamental question that I think the commission needs to act on. And there may be a couple more of those.
Right.
And so I think maybe that would help focus the commission's attention on these big picture changes that will then affect how we're drafting these.
Right, so we don't have to do it.
Does that
twice.
mean we have to start all over again?
We haven't got it right.
Not entirely.
Nobody's gonna push it, so.
Yeah, but
I mean,
it's
I
something
totally
that
agree. I think
we
like
can do.
updated to part eight, that, I think,
Well,
it would,
I wanted to say that we're in the cleanup because that was what we started.
That's
And
right.
we finish it, but
Yeah.
if we spend a year to do that and then, oh, we needed to change it all anyways, and then do another year, that's a year waste. So if there's a couple of changes and it's gonna make fundamental changes and that's what everybody wants to do, then we just finish this up this year, that would be great.
I mean, they're simple, but
Just a
it's like
matter of
John
moving
said,
forward.
it's a different philosophy. It's just organizing it differently.
Would
So
it
that
be,
you can follow along better.
would it be helpful to put like a shell together, like of sections? Not necessarily
Outline.
rewriting it all, you know what I mean? But so that everybody can see the layout of it and work from that layout to go through it.
We can definitely do that and outline.
Yeah, and I mean, and Juliet has provided an example as part of the POCD sort of cleanup presentation. This is, I don't know, a 20-page PDF you sent, Juliet. I assume this was the basis of a presentation you gave. That shows sort of a color-coded use table. That's very simple. That I think sort of reflects what you're talking about in this case.
It won't change anything that we've approved or gone over already, it will just be moving it.
Right, and moving forward.
Yeah, it's
So-
reorganizing. So
But yeah, that would definitely have to go before
Full board.
the
yeah.
board to make sure that that's whatever.
And that's-
So I think perhaps maybe Juliet, you and I mean, look, I'll keep doing the cleanup and I could do, I'll push forward. We're through section 6 right now. I can do probably section 7 because 8 it will be a beast. And at
If I-
that point,
What if I
and
pick 8 and put them into what I'm talking about?
do 8.
I'll do 8.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, you're certainly welcome to.
You took that off.
That'd be
Well,
great.
I'll pull out, what are the, categorize them, take what's here and just,
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, and you pull out like kennels, for instance, or whatever, those
If that brings your idea to. the
salt
board,
storage.
See it, it might be better
Yeah.
visually.
Yeah, 'cause they left something out of the kennels. There was
it's not even alphabetical, Justin.
yeah, just there was another, they were somewhere else. It was in there that the kennels should tell you how many dogs are allowed and that kind of thing.
I say we do an outline of what it would look like, or what the chapters would be, and they're not too far off of what you have, it's just.
Right.
Changes, and then the use table, so that I can better do chapter 8, because I have to know what the use categories are.
And so I think perhaps presenting that ideally when we have a full commission, to kind of as this is an important inflection point, I think.
Yeah, I don't want to duplicate work later on if we're gonna,
If we do all this, not have to move it again or change it.
it's just confusing.
Well, it's a waste of everybody's time. That's not time, everybody's time.
To me, an update, to clean up and sort of modernize means you should change the format. This is old, this is an old style of regs, and it was very popular for a very long time.
Oh, it's ancient.
I call it the Jamie Rabbit style of regulation, but you might know what I'm talking about, but none of us like him, so I don't, it's just old school. It's not as user friendly.
I had a question too about solar. Are there any regulations for the solar farms?
There's
Or
site-
should there be, or,
There's siting council, the big ones?
Yeah.
They're governed by the siting council. You get to comment
Yeah,
if you, I just battled a big one in North Stonington, that was a battle of our life. It's hard.
and then, telecommunications towers has abandonment regulations, which was in there, but the solar doesn't. So what happens if they just,
The telecommunication towers are guided by the siting council too, but towns haven't removed their regs. And I say the benefit of sometimes having like solar regs or telecommunication regs is that if you're arguing in front of the siting council, you can say, yeah, but this is what we envisioned for our town. Look, we have these regs that talk about aesthetics or something like
Yeah,
that, and you make an
aesthetics.
argument to change the location. And that has worked. For
I just
one-
noticed that wasn't,
The big ones, you,
yeah,
doesn't matter, but the little ones you can.
Yeah, taking a ride through Groveland's kind of ugly.
yeah,
They won't budge for the screening. Period. There will be no trees. They'll plant those arborvitaes in such a way that they'll die within
Yeah.
a year.
Yeah, they already have. Yeah.
To see that new fence, all the trees that fell on them.
Oh, yeah.
I did that,
There's
yeah.
a bunch- there's like 3 spots.
And they're,
Like
they're,
those.
they're splitting them up on properties too, so that they save, they get multiple tax breaks on them.
I hope you charge them up the nose, but that's not our town.
That's not us.
That we, in North Stonington, we made $220,000 in the building department that year. Think about that. That's usually, you usually lose money. 220,000 because of solar alone. But you don't have any solar? Right?
it did anything.
There's not, the only thing in this reg describes solar panels as part of the definition of structure. That's the only reference.
So you might want to add, if it's a small one that you get to control, and you could add buffering and
Mhm.
whatever, no signs. or
I
no
don't,
lighting.
I think in talking to, Pete about that before, is that there's not really any place in town that's even zoned for it.
Zone, I mean, it's, well, it's not in your use table.
Mhm.
You allow them on people's houses, though, don't you,
Residential,
as accessory,
correct.
without listing it as a accessory use
Uh,
in your table?
no, it's a building permit and an electrical permit.
What if it's standalone? Not on a roof?
We've only got a couple of those. Yeah,
But that's
Which is
a
ugly.
structure.
Oh my God.
it's so ugly.
Yeah, but further down in the castle, my neighbors, to the left, we have in the front yard.
It's right in the front yard.
The
Castle
castle
has
is right next to their.
Castle has it because
So
I
you
built
could
that.
have a regulation that says standalone or ground mounted solar isn't allowed in your front yard, whatever.
Not the one, not the one that's near the castle?
I'm further, no, it's the next one. The castle has one.
Yes,
Castle,
I know.
yeah.
I built it further down.
Oh,
Oh,
would
is
they-
there another one further
Yeah.
down?
the-
Yep.
the Deals.
Would they have a zoning permit for that?
Never saw that one.
And what would it fall under though? What use?
Use.
I'm not sure. They haven't done any since I've been here, Juliet, so I don't have any experience with it myself.
I never noticed one down there.
They've all been roof mounted since I've been here.
There's no coverage and there's no buffer between that and their neighbor. Also, at least I have a buffer. I didn't know. I just happened to notice there was no solar or anything, so.
Yeah, the only limits now, like farmland and the state has added some. You know, it used to be really easy to put them all on farmland because it was flat, so all these farms were getting eaten up, so they did fix that, but that's the only thing they fixed that I could see when we were battling it. And endangered species, vernal pools, and wetland stuff.
Personally, I don't care if they're on the property, but. They're on top of the neighbor's house. Require something if possible.
It should have been, still been within the setbacks.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Right, it's considered a structure, so it would have to respect structural setbacks.
Right. Unless they got
Unless I got a variance.
for
Been
it.
several years now. Since it's-
Yeah, those ones that were separate of the houses. Only went on houses, so.
Oh, yeah.
And some towns have said, like, you can only have them in the backyard, or they can't be within X amount of feet from another house, or, you know, you can add whatever you want. And wind towers are the other thing that everybody panicked about for a while,
Good deals.
but, like the fall zone.
Okay, so where are we? It's cleaned up to section 5, right?
Through section 6.
Through section 6.
And I can, section 7 is short. I can do a clean up on that. And I think probably next month at planning and zoning, Juliet and I can kind of present some of these sort of fundamental questions that the commission can kind of act on, which direction they want to go. And then we can proceed with the rest of the update.
Yeah, because you're at that point now that you would have to make that decision. 'Cause you're
Right.
at supplemental rate spot.
So I'm gonna say we're on the correspondence.
There is none.
There is none.
Pete is not here.
I was just gonna say, like,
We did the general planning.
general planning discussion.
The only, just one quick note, is that the town did adopt, the Board of Selectmen did adopt the Affordable Housing Plan on June 1st. So the town is up to date with that and has satisfied its state requirement. So, and hopefully that, Sue, I don't know if that was posted on the town website or not.
If it Board of Selectmen did it, Tracy probably would have done that.
Yeah.
We checked though.
Yeah, but so that was updated and that's good.
Did the town
But
opt out of the accessory park? No, we passed that, right?
we passed that last month, 2 months ago.
We did the cannabis thing, we pushed it out.
Right. I didn't realize the cannabis one, they did away with the population thing.
They did away with the cap. Yep. Yep. So that means, yeah. and- What's that?
That must've just happened.
That just, yeah, it happened with the budget implementer.
Okay.
Yeah, so that there is no longer there was until, mid-May, a cap of one license per 25,000 population.
I thought we just, that would have been one for town.
Well, now they-
Exactly. But they removed that. So in theory, if they're allowed by zoning, you could have, a cannabis retail row if you wanted.
You're not gonna get that, but you could. But do we have to now, do you have a moratorium for a year?
We have a moratorium through next
April.
March, April.
Yeah, April 1st.
So we need to decide what we're gonna do.
But let's make the decision on what we're gonna do with these, and then we put it in the appropriate place. too.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
All makes sense, yeah.
So anyway, that's all I had.
That was surprising.
Thank you, John.
Go on,
So no more general planning discussions, right?
That's it.
That was it? Okay. Last thing is to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor? All opposed? Motion to adjourn at 7:57 PM.